Exercise 3. I'm doing this out of order. Let's work on exercise 3. So I'm going to scroll down, and that took me a little bit too far. So exercise 3 asks you to make a graph of the pattern that you have up above. The pattern that you have up above, which we put in already, or I re-put in already. Here, that's the pattern that I'm going to make a graph of. To make a graph, all you're really going to do is highlight the data that you would like to make a graph of. So here I am highlighting all of this data. Okay. And then I'm going to insert, that's this up here, insert. I'm going to insert a graph or chart. It's called a chart in here. So I'm going to open that insert menu and go down to chart. And it's going to open another dialog box. There it is. It gives you all sorts of recommendations. You'll notice this tab says recommendations. You could go to chart types and look at everything you could do and really customize it pretty significantly. But I see one in here that probably makes the most sense, and that's actually the second one. So I'm going to click on the second one. And that's the type of graph that we're kind of used to seeing for a pattern like this. It's going up nice and steadily. But it's not great. It'll show you the points and things as you're clicking on it here. See that they show up. But it doesn't really have a title. The axes aren't titled. It's not great. So what I'm going to do is I've clicked this type, and I'm actually going to go over to the customization tab. And that's going to allow me to really make the graph look like it's supposed to. And if I can get the customization, there we go. That's come up. The very first thing it allows you to do is put in a title, which is really handy because we would like this to have a title. So let's see, I'm gonna call this savings, I don't know, savings per month, you might put, or something like that. Or you could make it savings over time, something that tells you what's going on in the graph. You're saving up money, it's over a period of time, so I'm going to go back to maybe savings per month. And the legend is this little line over here, moving down to the next thing here. I don't particularly like having the legend there. It just sort of looks out of place, at least in this particular case. So I'm going to open it up, and I'm actually just going to choose none. So that little line that was over there, that's now gone, and that's keeping the graph from looking at all messy. Now as you're going through this, you'll notice there's places to change the font, to change the background color, change the size, add italics, add bold, etc. You can add any of these touches that you want. I'm not going to because I just want us to go through the actual nuts and bolts. The features are useful things, but they're not going to help us for this particular graph. But I do want to customize the axes as well. So here it says the axis we're going to work on is the horizontal axis. I'm going to give it a title. I do know that those are my months, so I'm going to say months. Okay. And again, I can change the font, I can change the size, the color, etc. You can make the numbers that are along the axis slanted. That's what slant labels means. I'm not going to. You can change what number it starts at and what number it ends at. I'm also not going to. It starts at 0 and ends a little bit above 10. That seems perfect. The only thing I don't like is the fact that it jumps from 0 to 2.5, which seems a little bit strange to me. So I'm going to go down to this grid line section. The grid line section is where I can change that. Major are the lines that line up with the actual numbers. And you can change how many of them there are. Notice right now that there are 5. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 major grid lines. If I change this down to 2, which I did originally when I was testing this out, you'll notice that now I only have 2 grid lines. So I really actually want more of them. So I'm going to actually put in 10. And that puts in the nice pattern of just going up by 1. Okay, we have the tables kind of set up specifically to make this look nice as well. Okay, so major grid lines are in, and you can put in what are called minor grid lines. I'll just show that to you because we will use it in a second. If I put in 4, that puts in little lines in between. That doesn't help me since I'm talking about whole months, so I'm going to put in 0. Okay, that looks pretty good for my axis, at least my horizontal axis, so I'm going to scroll back up and I'm going to change this to my vertical axis. It says left vertical because you can actually have vertical axis on the left and the right. We only have one on the left, which is nice. I'm going to change this to total savings, and I might put in a $sign just to make sure everybody knows my units. Okay. I don't need to change the min or the max because those seem pretty reasonable, that you'd have a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 240. That's dollars for this particular pattern going up by ones. But I do want to change my grid lines, and I tested this out a bit, and you might have to play with whichever one you end up doing, whichever pattern you end up doing. But what I found really nice, when I put in 10, that seemed nice. I mean, I can see where 0 and 40 is, but I'd actually like it to be on a grid line, personally. So I actually changed it, I played around with it a bit, and I changed it to 8. Major grid lines. You can only do 10, and so I was sort of limited. And what I did was I then put in 2 minor grid lines. So now you actually see it going up by 10s, 10, 20, 30, 40. So you can see that 0, 40 is actually in a nice spot where the 2 grid lines cross. It's pretty easy to tell where 55 is. It's halfway between 50 and 60. And the points in general are pretty easy to spot then based on the grid we put together. So that's looking pretty nice. Now, the only thing that you can do then, there are different series. If you have more than one line in there, you can choose which line you're working on, and then you can change the color, which is useful again if you have 2 lines to put in 2 colors. You can change the thickness, and you can actually put in points, which I really like for this. So I put in 2, those are those tiny little dots. So if you like them small and sort of obtrusive like that, that's great, or you can make them nice and big like 7, which is also fine. And that's actually about it for all the different customizations you would want to do to make your graph look kind of clean and put together. So I'm just going to press insert. And now that is in my Google Sheet. But it's kind of in the way. You can see the table in the background here, right? And I did ask you to drag it down to the answer spot down below, so that's what I'm going to do. But on my computer it's going to take me a little while to do that because it's sort of in between a tablet and a computer. But let's see if I can get that set up a little bit better here. And I'm just tapping on it with the mouse, and see it has like a fist there, so it's grabbed onto it, and then I'm dragging it down. And that's as good as it's gonna get. And now I can see my chart nicely in the answer space provided, and that's about it. Go ahead and go back to those instructions that I posted on Moodle to make sure you get a shareable link and email me that link to submit your assignment.